Latin America analyst Javier Farge joins us now for more. There he is. Hi, Javier. So just how bad are things really on the ground in Brazil? Because in spite of rising numbers, you will still see supporters out on the streets rallying firmly behind the president and his push not to take this virus so seriously.
Yes, it is a very good question. It is very, very bad. There's no other way to describe the situation. They have, as you said, the third biggest number of deaths in the world, the biggest in Latin America in relation to the rest of Latin America combined. 16,895 people have died, 256,500 people infected. As you said, the health service is collapsing as we speak, but Mr. Bolsonaro still rejects the notion that the coronavirus is a serious problem. You were showing not long just before here a report from your correspondent in Washington, and the approach that Mr. Trump has towards this situation is very similar to the approach that Mr. Bolsonaro has. He dismisses it as a flu that is going to go away. He has attacked those governors. Brazil is a federal republic, which means that governors have a great deal of power. Those governors who have actually imposed a lockdown and closing the economy. And you are right, and you have shown a demonstration that happened this Sunday. However, people have started to move towards a more critical approach to Mr. Bolsonaro's position on coronavirus. According to O Globo, the newspaper, which is part of the biggest media conglomerate in Brazil, 38% of people believe that he's doing badly, 30% think he's doing okay, and 28% think he's doing fine, which is more or less his usual constituency, 28 to 30%. And some people within his own movement are already proposing an impeachment. There's 3 motions of impeachment in Congress, some of them proposed by his allies or former allies, because they believe that he's actually mismanaging this situation really badly. It's going to have a political cost for the conservatives in Brazil, and it's going to cost more and more lives. Okay. And of course, as you mentioned, yes.
Well, first of all, I need to say, one thing, and this is a point Bolsonaro will make. Per capita, Brazil's numbers aren't necessarily that bad. Brazil is a huge country, absolutely huge country. So relative to its population, he'll make the same arguments that President Trump does, that actually Brazil is doing better because they're doing more testing. That's why their numbers are higher. They're being more transparent about this. Regardless, though, we're seeing the same kind of polarization. His supporters will listen to what he says, and they will buy into his interpretation of the numbers. But I did speak to a few Brazilian contacts that actually do think, like you, that the president is hanging by a thread, and that he will be gone, actually, one of them said, by the end of the year. So tell me how that's possible. You mentioned impeachment. Could it happen on that quickly a time scale?
Yes, to answer the first question, yes, you are right. Per capita might be low, but it's very difficult to quantify because there are remote areas, especially in the Amazon in Brazil, where it's very difficult to count the people who are ill. That's one element we have to take into account. So it's easy to deal with the big industrial cities of the south of Brazil, but when you go to the Amazon, it's very difficult to quantify, and indigenous people have already reported a great number of cases within the Amazon where help is very difficult to reach, so we have to say this. Secondly, the problem Mr. Bolsonaro has at the moment is that he's losing supporters among his own followers. That is his problem. Let me quote Senator Sergio Olimpio Gomez. He was a staunch ally of Mr. Bolsonaro. He says he's letting down conservatives in Brazil. Sergio Moro, his justice minister, the one who resigned late in April, who was one of his closest allies, who as a judge put behind bars former President Lula da Silva. He resigned after Mr. Bolsonaro sacked the head of the federal police who was investigating Bolsonaro's son, Carlos Bolsonaro, for allegedly spreading false rumors and organizing anti-democratic demonstrations. I don't know whether he's going to last until the end of the year or not, but there's 30 motions, some of them put forward in Congress by his own supporters who think that he's actually causing a great deal of damage to Brazilian society. It's going to cause a great deal of damage to the economy, but at the same time, it's going to have a political cost for those who still support Mr. Bolsonaro. So his problems are mounting. As you mentioned, his health minister resigned after he sacked the former health minister. He's getting more and more isolated. The army is getting quite restless. I'm not suggesting for a moment there would be a coup in Brazil, but the army is getting quite restless about the way he's dealing with the situation. So the situation is pretty bad for Mr. Bolsonaro, actually.
Okay, Javier Farge, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it.